What is happening, people? Welcome to Scarfey Spurs, the first game of the Premier League season. All that wait is over. To be fair, it's come round quite quick because we've had the World Cup, but the season is here. I don't know about any of you listening, but I certainly am excited for the 26-27 season and what's to come. And of course, the opposition previews are back, as with a new season. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by the wonderful Brentford Hive. Clues in the name, big Brentford fan, big curator. There's amazing stuff across social media. So it's a pleasure to talk to him today. How you doing?
Doing good, mate. Love the intro. The World Cup was fun, but looking forward to club football being back. Should be a good season.
Absolutely that. Yeah, it's come round very quick. But you're right, the World Cup was good, but nothing beats club football, if you ask me. Do you mind if we start with your transfer window today? What have you made of it? Because just judging by the numbers, 83.5 million euros spent. Big names that really stick out to me are Sangare at 48 million euros, Jade Nancy, I think that's a really smart signing, 17.5 million euros, and Callum Wilson, a lot of people would have heard of course, getting on a little bit now at 36, but on a free feels like a good pickup. So what have you made of your business today?
I think it's been a really good window. I think coming into it, I said we needed to sign a defence midfielder and a winger. And obviously, we've broken our transfer record to bring in Sangare, who was one of the best midfielders in France last season. So that's a good bit of business. And we've also improved our depth quite well. Jaden Anthony can play off either wing. Callum Wilson, he is getting on a bit, but for a backup striker, I think he's good. In the pre-season game that he played last weekend, he came off the bench and he got a goal and assist inside 4 minutes. So he looks good. We've also brought in a young centre back as well. So I think the squad's in a good place. We are rumoured to be signing Malik Diaf from West Ham, the left back. So I think we'll get a couple more transfers done before the season fully starts. But right now, I think it's been a solid 8 or 9 out of 10 window. So I've been happy with it so far.
That's a nice position to be in, isn't it? I suppose as well, with a few weeks to go still, the transfer window, if it closing the end of this month, it's nice to get that business done early. But yeah, I did see that with those links there with Geoff, so it'd be interesting to see. But in terms of on the outgoing side, like Jordan Henderson is one that sticks out to me. I think mainly because he's joined Chelsea, of course, on a free transfer. So, what did you make of that from a Brentford perspective, and how do you look back at his year at the club?
Yeah, well, when he first joined, I wasn't too sure what to expect because he'd come in to replace our club captain, Norgard, who'd left to join Arsenal. But the first half of the season, he was very good. He played a lot, one of our better players. Second half of the season, particularly like 2026 in general, he's barely played at all. So I think letting him go sort of makes sense, especially when it's to free up room for someone like Sangare, who's a lot younger and will play a lot more. But outgoings in general this window have also been really solid because I think as a Brentford fan, when you go into the transfer window, you do worry about some of your better players leaving, like Coyote and Thiago, especially after the seasons that they had. But it looks like neither of them are going to leave. It looks like no one else really is going to leave. There are some rumours that Sharda might go, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen. So Henderson being the only outgoing, I think, is really solid.
How do you think you get on at Chelsea, may I ask you? I know it's diverted a little bit away from Brentford and for Tottenham, but I'm interested to know what you think in terms of how many minutes he get, if any at all.
Probably not that many. I mean, if we look at some of the other links Chelsea got, they were linked to Xhaka, who would play a lot more, but I think they fill the same sort of role as like an older figure, a leader in that team. I think that's more why they're bringing him in, because Chelsea obviously have a lot of young players, so Henderson comes in as more of a leader. I doubt he'd play that much next season, though.
I think they've done similar as well with Danny Welbeck, who I do suspect will play more and could be handy off the bench, but I think absolutely going for that leadership old head route. But I was going to ask you about the outgoings. You've touched on it there because in terms of the numbers, you look at it, only 7 million euros in outgoings for you guys so far. But do you give Keith Andrews credit for that? Because that to me, as an outsider, and you've said it there, which is interesting. I mean, it tells me that your best assets are staying and therefore are committed to stay. So is that credit to your manager? Because of course, as you know, in the last window or two, massive turnover of players in terms of some you've lost. You mentioned there in terms of club captain, you mentioned Norgard. There's a loads you can focus on, isn't there? Tony, Mbamo, Wissa. So how does it feel to have your best players secure?
Yeah, it feels really nice for once. I think the players themselves will know that, especially Kyoto, he's very young. He's got, he's only 20, 21, 22 now. So I think he knows that another season at Brentford to stay and develop isn't going to really harm his career at all. Thiago's a little bit older, but he's also still young enough to stay at Brentford for another season without that impacting further moves. And I think the players themselves, they can sense that maybe Brentford are making that European push this season. So sticking around, being a part of it will give them, good experience for the next clubs they potentially go on to. But it's very important to keep the squad together, definitely.
Definitely don't want any problems at all. And the more with the likes of Tony as well, just as an example, I think you've done the right thing to move him on. The more you see, the more you read. I just think generally as well with the outgoings, of course, it's a shame to lose these players, but good value for a lot of them. Even Wissa, look how he's getting on at Newcastle. But moving to my club Tottenham's window so far, what have you made of it? I'm thinking a huge start, 6 incomings for Tottenham, £185 million spent in midfield on Sandro Tonali and Mateus Fernandes. Have you been impressed with Tottenham's business, and do you think they're really backing Roberto De Zerbi?
Yeah, I think Tottenham's business has been good this season. Obviously, I think anyone can look in and see that you desperately need more attackers. But as far as the players you have brought in defensively, they look solid. And some smart business there as well. Free transfers, Robertson, Senesi, Dubravka, like those are smart business. And the players you brought in for big money, I think will all do well next season. They're all Premier League proven, and I think they'll settle into the team. But yeah, definitely need an attacker, especially a striker. I'd say I've seen that Solanke, I think, is injured again. Obviously, a lot of your wingers are injured, so yeah, I think from the outside, that's the obvious one that you're missing.
Absolutely. I think our Tottenham fans are desperate for us to improve the attack. News coming in actually around the time of recording, just before that Jed Spence, we've got the Here We Go, it's going to Inter Milan for a roundabout in terms of if you convert it to million pounds, it's about 25, 26 million pounds. Do you think that feels low from a Tottenham point of view? I'm just thinking of the World Cup that Jed Spence has just come off the back of with England. Are you surprised that they're letting him go as well? Because it means we have no natural or obvious right back cover for Porro, and Gray spoken out as De Zerbi against him playing in that right back role.
I think it's a strange one. I mean, the World Cup he was very solid, but I can also understand maybe from his point of view after the World Cup, he's probably not going to be first choice next season at Tottenham, so it makes sense for him to maybe push to get that move while his stocks are still high. But yeah, from a Spurs point of view, unless you have someone else good lined up, I've seen Nico Williams from Forest linked, but yeah, it's a strange one. I think it's definitely a bad transfer from a Spurs point of view, but I can understand why he'd want to go after the World Cup.
Totally agree. Absolutely. It just feels like we're like a lot of us would rather sell the Vicarios, the Romeros, and there was a little bit of frustration there. But Tottenham are doing it very much by what is good business, who is the most sellable asset, rather than who we want to go. Just a different approach we're seeing this summer. But returning to your club Brentford and briefly touching on pre-season for those that, like, for example, the Tottenham audience here, of course, being a Tottenham podcast that may not know in terms of your pre-season, where have you been on the pre-season tour, and how's pre-season been to you overall?
Pre-season's been good so far. We had a little bit of a tour in Portugal, played a few behind closed doors matches. The most recent game was on the weekend in France against Rennes, and that was live streamed by the club. And that was a good match. We had an earlier one, I think it was a 10 o'clock match against Rennes as well, where half the team played, and then the later match where the rest of the team played. We won that game 4-2. There was some, Thiago scored, Wilson scored. So good highlights there from Brentford point of view. Sangare also looked very good. Carvalho came off. He's obviously been injured for quite a few months, almost a year now. So he came on. He looked good in the second half. So pre-season's been good. We've got another match coming up soon. Another couple of games. So I think we're in a good position so far.
And also more of a fun one, rather than on the pitch, and more off the pitch. Thoughts on your new kits this year? Of course, the new kits for every club every year, but there's always a question: is the creativity going to run out? Is it going to be a good kit or not? And that's always an interesting conversation among different fans. What do you make of yours? I like the one that I've got on the screen here.
Yeah, I think we've done really well this year with the kits. The home kit I like. The away kit, I think, is one of the better ones we've had in a long time. Sort of like that pinstripe suit design. The yellow one that's on screen, that's really nice. I think we've done really well. We had a yellow kit, I think, 4 or 5 seasons ago, for our away kit, and I think this is just a nicer version of that one. So I'm really pleased with the kits this year. I think Joma have done well.
It looks very good, if you ask me. I'm also happy with my clubs as well. So maybe they're stepping up just a little bit. Before we dive into this game, thoughts on your Carabao Cup second round draw? It's Birmingham City that you'll face away from home. What are your thoughts on that? Of course, not a Premier League side. That's always a relief, I'm sure, but it's still a top Championship side and away from home.
Yeah, pretty happy with the draw. I think, like you say, ideally in the early rounds, you sort of want to avoid all the Premier League sides. Birmingham's still a good team, but it definitely gives us an opportunity to rotate. And especially because our depth is looking a bit better this season, not just with new signings, but also players coming back from injury, it gives an opportunity for players like Carvalho, Anthony, Wilson, those type of players to all start and see what they can do this season. So pretty happy with that. Hopefully we get through that round and avoid Premier League teams for a couple more. So that should be good.
Absolutely. I'm with you, and I agree that you just want to avoid those Premier League teams, ideally at home, but particularly avoiding the Premier League teams. I wouldn't mind that, as you progress. I mean, a bit like that. Of course, some fans, if you're away fans, you like the certain days out, etc. But it's purely about getting through, especially at these stages. But on the game, can I get your thoughts going into it at the moment, first game of the season? I mean, you know as good as I do that it's really important to start off on a good note, and of course, it being a home game, do you think, and also all the signings that Tottenham have made, and De Zerbi still being relatively new. Of course, 6 games is in for last year. Do you think that you could start the campaign off with a win?
I think, yeah, definitely the aim should be to start off strong. I think the team looks in a good position, and also being at home as well is always good. You always want to start off the season at home. Last season, we started off against Nottingham Forest. That was Keith Andrews' first game. We lost that match, and then we came to the G-Tech against Aston Villa and we beat them. So I think we're in a good position heading into this match, and hopefully it should be a good game.
And this may sound like a silly question, but I ask it more because it's the first game of the season. Is it more the strong performance you're looking for, or the result? And if I had to give you the option of play really, really well, but lose the game, or not look very good and actually have a really flat performance, but actually get a kind of result to you?
I think last season we had a bit of a similar issue, especially in the first half of the season, where Brentford were getting some decent results, but the performances weren't quite there. And maybe, we relied a lot on long throws and situations like that. And people were wondering whether or not we were going to play more attractive football. I think at the end of the day, the result's all that matters, but you ideally also want a good performance in there. So
Absolutely. And then if you had to commit to a score prediction, what are you saying?
probably go, I think a 2-2 draw is what I'm sitting on right now. I think that's, yeah. What about you?
Yeah, do you know what I was going to say? Thank you for asking. I think it has a draw written all over it, to be honest. It's one of them
Yeah.
where I think both teams are in for a strong season. I think you're going to be pushing personally for Europe. We're going to get onto that in a second. I think that we get back in the European places. Hard to tell if we don't sign an attacker, but I think this type of game has a draw written all over it. I'll probably say 1-1 because I'm not sure where our goals are going to come from at the moment, but I appreciate you very much for asking. Before we do wrap up, then, season predictions. Always fun doing it before a ball is kicked. Before I get you to commit to positions for both clubs in all competitions, what should be possible for Brentford this season? What should the aim be? You spoke there about Europe. Do you think that is a realistic aim? Of course, I know, again, hard to tell. You don't know what's going to happen in the rest of the window with incomings or outgoings. You don't know how you're going to start the season. What's your feeling at the moment in terms of, is Europe a real aim you should be pursuing?
Yeah, last season we only narrowly missed out on Europe on the final game of the season. So we were literally like 1 goal away from qualifying. And this year, I think the important thing is a lot of the mid-table teams have all qualified for Europe last season. So Bournemouth are going to be playing Europe, Brighton, Crystal Palace, Sunderland as well. So a lot of those teams that could finish in the middle of the park are going to be preoccupied. And I think that gives Brentford, who only have 1 game a week, the opportunity to maybe swoop in and get top 7. I think that definitely has to be the aim, because I think depth wise and also starting lineup wise, we're in a better position to what we were last season. So top 7 definitely has to be the aim. I think we can do it, barring any like major injury crisis.
Absolutely. I think you will. I genuinely think you will at this stage. I think you're looking very, very strong, and I like Keith Andrews as an individual and as a manager. I think he's very, very good, and I think he's one that you definitely want to keep. For Spurs, then, what do you think the aim should be? Should it be getting back into Europe, or if Tottenham make the attacking signing, should it be top four, or is it just simply about improving on last year and just showing any form of progression?
Yeah, I think definitely, progression has to be important. But if you sign that top attacker, which you hopefully will do before the window shuts, then yeah, Europe should definitely be the aim. I made my Premier League predictions, like my early ones the other day, and I think I put Spurs 8th or 9th right now without any attackers. So if you add in an attacker, I think that top seven's definitely got to be the aim because the rest of your team looks really good, especially the midfield and defence.
That's fair enough. That's fair. As much as I think we can and will get back into Europe, but if we sign no attackers, that is very hard because where the goal's going to come from, you can have a good defence. I think we're looking really strong there. Strong back line, midfield's looking strong, but I'm thinking who's going to create these chances, but even more so, who's going to be scoring them at the moment. But to commit then to positions, starting with Brentford, and we'll do it competition by competition. Premier League, then, if you had to commit to a place, you say there in terms of you're right, narrowly missed out in Europe, and the aim should be that. If you had to commit, of course, you said there, which is very handy. You've done your season predictions. Where were Brentford in that?
I went 7th for Brentford. I think that's where we'll
Seven.
finish.
Okay. What about the Carabao Cup and FA Cup for Brentford?
FA Cup, I want to say 5th round. Carabao Cup, hopefully a little bit further. I think maybe quarterfinals, semi-finals, maybe. It depends how. Because the last 2 seasons we've made it fairly far in the competition, and then we've rotated our entire teams when we've come up against Newcastle a couple of years ago. It was Man City last season. I think if we put out a strong lineup, we could make it further, but probably quarterfinals.
Okay, I like that. That's good. And for Tottenham, you say they're, of course, the Premier League 8th to 9th at the moment. So we've done that with the league. Where do you think Tottenham will get in the Carabao Cup and FA Cup? We've got Charlton Athletic, if you didn't see it, in the Carabao Cup second round at home.
I think I could see Spurs going a little bit further. Maybe quarterfinals in the Carabao Cup, maybe 5th or 6th round in the FA Cup.
Okay, that's good. It's progress. Certainly progress on last year. Mind you, the bar is quite low. But honestly, pleasure to talk to you and to get you on ahead of the new season. Really nice to talk to you. Tell people where they can follow you on social media. They should know, but for those that maybe don't.
Yeah, appreciate it. It's been fun. You can follow me on the Brentford Hive on TikTok or Twitter/X and YouTube.
Great stuff. Lovely to talk to you. Wish you all the best. I wish all the stuff you're doing on social media and Brentford as well all the best. And hopefully we can collaborate again on the reverse fixture. Thank you for talking to me.